Hey everyone, welcome back to the Triathlon Weekly News Roundup presented by thefeed.com. My name's Travis, and as you can see, I'm back in my office this week because trust me, you don't want to see the weather that's going on outside here in Washington. But I'm so excited to be talking about some warm weather races that happened this last weekend, with one that we'll focus on in particular. I'm sure you can guess it by the thumbnail. That was Ironman Florida. It was absolutely crazy. But it was super fun to have 4 big races this weekend, and what's coming to the end of the season. What a ridiculous year it's been. Thankfully, we still have a few more races coming up, which I'll tell you all about. As always, we're diving into some more headlines this week about Javier Gomez, the Zwift Triathlon Academy, Ironman Hamburg, Max Stately talking about doping, Lucy Charles-Barkley and a playlist that she had on repeat, and Super League getting ready for the US. Plus, a bonus picture of one of the coolest futuristic bikes I have ever seen in my life. And as always, huge thanks to the supporters of the show. Without them, I wouldn't have the time to do this, and I absolutely love doing it every week. So The Feed, Fuelin, DeBoer, and now A2 Bikes, please do check out their links in the description. So let's start this off talking about Rudy Von Berg and Sky Monch. And if you weren't glued to the tracker like I was during this race and crying a little bit, wishing there was a broadcast, and don't worry, I'll fill you in how the race went. So Rudy had a front pack swim. It started off really well for him, and then managed to put down one of his fastest ever, actually his fastest ever bike split in an Ironman, 4 hours flat. He managed to hold off Magnus from breaking away, which is really hard to do. But the two of them started off the run together, and it looked like they were in for a serious battle before finally Rudy started getting a gap, and we saw from Magnus's Instagram story that it looked like he was having some foot issues. Now, he did say in his post-race report that he was trying some new things. I'm not sure if those were some new shoes, but yeah, he fell off, and Rudy just got stronger and stronger and finished with a PB marathon of 2:38, which is pretty ridiculous at this time of year. And yeah, he picked up his Kona slot, but he also picked up the course record by 8 minutes, and also set one of the top 5 fastest ever Ironman times. And now that's debatable depending on the course, etc. So it was one of the best we've ever seen. And then similar thing for Sky Monch, but she had a far different start to the race as she came out of the water in 10th. However, that must have encouraged her to go for the 3rd fastest bike split in female history, catching all the way up to the front of the race. But Jocelyn McCauley and India Lee were also having ridiculously good days too, so she started the run with them. It soon then became a battle between her and India Lee until the halfway point of the marathon. And then, like Rudy, Sky just took over. India doesn't have too many marathons in her legs, and Sky does, and she set a PB marathon as well, like Rudy, and she broke the course record as well by 18 minutes though, over Kat Matthews' previous record. And she also set one of the fastest ever Ironman times. I think a lot of you, like me, are going to be so excited to see both of these athletes race in probably the Ironman Pro Series next year. It really suits them. I can also see them diving into some PTO races if the PTO has them. But yeah, just phenomenal performances from them. Like I said, for the women as well, India Lee had a great Ironman race. She will be an amazing long distance athlete to watch in the future. And Jocelyn, coming back from an injury she had not that long ago, to have a fantastic 10th place in Kona, and now for this podium finish here, she'll be chuffed with that. Both of them picking up Kona slots as well. And then on the men's side, Kakvar Stepaniak from Poland, he's had a cracker of a season. He'll definitely be included in one of my after the season videos. He's just been on a tear. That was his 2nd ever Ironman, and for him to get 2nd place was brilliant. Magnus Ditlev fell off, if you were wondering, to 5th place. He still picked up his Kona validation. And Matthew Marquardt finished in 3rd place. He's the med student who somehow balances both careers. But yeah, unbelievable racing in Florida, and I could talk about it for the rest of the show, but we're gonna move on because there were some other races. There was also Los Cabos 70.3, where a lot of athletes were going for the fairy tale end of their season where they could sip a cocktail on the beach afterwards, but the favorites held on strong. Paula Findlay, she did make it a little bit tough for herself. She was 2.5 minutes down on the water, which is not something you often hear from her, but as she always does, she rode back on the bike, but didn't give herself quite enough of a gap, I would have thought, from Olympian and short course athlete Lisa Purder. She is a phenomenal runner, but didn't manage to quite close down Paula, as she's still not used to this long distance stuff. But yeah, so great race for Paula, who said job done in her story. I think that's how she felt about that race. Jason West on the men's side, he took the victory with another ridiculous run. It's just getting silly at this point. The next fastest run was 5 minutes longer than his, but Mark Dubrick tried to make it hard on the swim. He got a bit of a lead from Jason, and then Jackson Laundrie had a bit of a lead after the bike. But yeah, when you're running 5 minutes faster than anybody, it's gonna be really hard to beat you. But then there was also another really cool non-draft race, the Noosa Triathlon, celebrating its 40th year. I'm always surprised by this race and how many people go out to race it. It looks so beautiful, definitely a bucket list race. It looks like the Roth of Australia, and it definitely felt like that with Belinda Granger commentating. It was a super fast race, especially on the men's side where the course records were broken. Hayden Wilde took the win, but just barely. He'll have to thank going to the velodrome to do some aero testing for this win, I think, because he was flying on his TT bike. He averaged 355 watts, which is crazy. And Matt Hauser averaged 380 watts for that ride, but Hayden Wilde was going quite a bit faster. He said he saw triple digits coming down the big Garmin hill. Clearly put it all on the line for the win ahead of Matt Hauser. Henry Skuman finished up in 3rd place. And then, as you probably guessed it, on the women's side, Ashley Gentle picked up the win. But there were a really good couple of performances from Sophie Malawecki and Rochelle Hill, who pushed her all the way to the finish and made it pretty exciting. And when she was asked whether she would come back for an 11th race, she said when she crossed the finish line, she thinks it might be time for her to go volunteer at the race instead. And I think a lot of the women would be hoping that she does do this to give them a chance to win. But one of the biggest things that came out of the race was the talking about the drafting, and even the commentators were talking about it after the race, asking Ashley and Hayden what they thought of it. It was really apparent that it was going on.
I was kind of like, yep, girls, let's keep the 12 meters here. And
I agree. Hang on, I want to ask Hayden about 12 meters in a minute. Oh, keep going on you with the 12 meters.
Yes.
Race Ranger might be getting a call for next year's race, you'd have to imagine. And then lastly, there was the Pan American Games, where Lizeth Rueda, who was actually a marathon swimmer at the Pan American Games 12 years ago, won the women's race, which is really impressive with the fastest run. And then Miguel Hidalgo of Brazil, who's a 23-year-old phenom, he took the win there just ahead of Matt McElroy. And then Team Brazil got the mixed relay win. And then next week, we've got 70.3 Melbourne. Hayden Wilde returns again, racing against the likes of Braden Curry. Amelia Watkinson and Lottie Willems lead the way in the women's race. There's also a World Triathlon Cup, again in Chile, the same place, which will see Gwen Jorgensen go out for her last race of the season, hoping for some more World Triathlon ranking points as he tries to break into the top 8 of those US Olympic hopeful women. And any race season is always exciting to watch, so you can watch that one on triathlonlive.tv. But moving on from there, onto the news headlines. Like I said in the intro, Javier Gomez is part of this news, which I always get excited about. He's the 5-time world champion, and we've been robbed of his amazing racing the last couple of years due to sickness and injury. But he's going to be racing 70.3 Mossel Bay in South Africa, as well as 70.3 Taupo, which I know he trains out of a lot. He's in his 40s, he's getting towards the end of his career, and I'm really hoping we get to see a good few races out of him like we saw out of Jan before he retired, especially with the PTO series and the Ironman series next year. He could really do both. I think he'll probably lean towards the PTO distance. That would be my guess, as he's a really good all-rounder. But we know he loves the long distance stuff right now. Can't wait to see him race. But then the next bit of news, Ironman Hamburg, despite what happened this year, the tragedy, the horrific incident there between the motorbike and the age grouper, that race has sold out. And it's a women's only race. It's the European Championships for the women. The men will race at Ironman Frankfurt later on. But yeah, it's part of the pro series for the professional athletes. That's amazing to me that it has sold out already. We then also had Max Stapley, a British short course athlete, open up and speak pretty vocally about doping in triathlon, saying triathlon is comprised of the 3 biggest doping sports in the world, and that we're kidding ourselves if we think there's not more doping in our sport.
You want the real answer?
Yeah, come on.
Look, I don't care. Like, at the end of the day, I'll say it as it is. I think we're racing a lot more people than we think are dirty, if that makes sense. I think if you look at some people's progressions, if you look at some people's body types, some people's just their demeanor, the way they race, their kind of career progression, it does not make sense.
And how if people are willing to cheat and lower their body weight on Zwift to win amateur races, then how more likely are people who are racing for a lot of prize money to be cheating? He says that thinking about doping and people doping in the sport can be really demotivating, but what motivates him is to win races clean and prove that it can be done. Definitely a heated topic. But as always, let me know down in the comments.
I know maybe I'm completely naive in saying this, but I think that the women's is a lot cleaner than the men's.
Back to a more lighthearted piece of news. I saw this on Triathlete. Lucy Charles-Barkley revealed her Spotify playlist that she used on repeat over and over as she was training primarily, almost entirely indoors for the Kona World Championships. 39 songs, of which a lot were from NF, the rapper, as well as The Who, Britney Spears, Imagine Dragons. If you want to check that one out down below, like I have, and hopefully some of that Kona winning magic will rub off on us, it's in the description. She's also been talked about being nominated for Sports Personality of the Year. I heard about this on Try247, who said they contacted Sky Bet, one of the UK's betting agencies, and they added her to the list as a 125-to-1 favorite for it, which might not mean a lot to you guys, but it means she's ahead of Harry Kane, who is an ultra famous English soccer player, and he's at 150-to-1. So Lucy Charles-Barkley looks like she's pretty popular in the UK right now. That's good for our sport. Then on to a big bit of news coming out of Super League. They named Scott Nielsen as their general manager to lead Super League Triathlon's North American expansion. He was responsible for a lot of Spartan and Tough Mudders expansion here in the US. A lot of big changes were made, so it'll be exciting to see what Super League do in the US. I'll ask you about that in my hot question a bit later on. But then moving on to that epic futuristic bike that I was teasing, and A2 Bikes won't mind me talking about it because not only are their bikes gorgeous as well, but because this one isn't even real. It's called the PNPL 3.0 Advanced Design Project by Van Rysel, and I found it pretty hard to find information on this after I first saw the images of it. And that's because, like I said, it isn't actually a real product that you can purchase. It is, as I will read from their website, a view to ultra customization that their team teamed up with Autodesk to imagine the bike of the future. They used generative design, another word for AI, to allow them to tailor-make product to offer better, lighter, airy products that hopefully for them will be an alternative to carbon because it's a non-renewable material. They want to do things differently, but retain the qualities that carbon offers. They want to design with less material for less impact and produce on-demand and tailor-made bikes to avoid mass production, which sounds really good to me. I really loved how it turned out, and they actually did make a lot of it with 3D printing, prototyping, and they also worked on helmets and shoes, which I think are stunning as well. And it just got me thinking about the bikes of the future. Will they start to look like this? What do you guys think? What is the next step for bike manufacturing? I mean, what do you guys think of that? Do you like it? Do you love it? Are you drooling like me? Crazy. Last bit of news comes from our sponsor of the episode, DeBoer Wetsuits, who make the finest World Championship winning wetsuits, designed and tested with the help of Santerra Technology, who you might know from Christian Blumenfeld and Gustav Eden, to make their products as fast and efficient and as good as possible. I've been swimming in my Fjord 2.0 this year, and I'm telling you, it's been like having the best pair of shoes in the closet that you just can't wait to put on. Right now, they have a massive 30% off sale of their Polar package, which includes their new Norseman 3.0 wetsuit, which looks insane. It will have you swimming warm all year round. Moving on from there to probably my favorite part of the show, talking about the video of the week, the humor of the week, the article of the week, and the hot question. This week's video of the week comes from Ironman. Now, they've gotten a couple of my video of the weeks, and I hope this becomes a prestigious award eventually. This race rewind from Portugal Cascais was just beautiful. They have really upped their media game, I keep saying that, this year. And yeah, this editing and video style that they created was beautiful. And then coming from someone who's an editor and loves video making myself, I know the amount of effort that was put into this. Moving on to the humor of the week, and this is going back to Halloween. Sam Long and Lionel Sanders, oh my goodness, matching costumes, how their lives have changed since I started following them some years ago. But yeah, that cracked me up. Pretty heartwarming stuff from those two. And then also I saw this today from the PTO. They did some face swapping, which I have done with Jan Frodeno video. I think you should check out if you haven't before. But yeah, my favorite face swap was with Jason West and Forrest Gump. That cracked me up. And moving on to the article of the week, this was a bit of a serious one from Triathlete, the battle for the soul of triathlon. This is something I think about a lot, and it's about the state of local triathlons and how a lot of triathlons, grassroots triathlons, are going away or have disappeared already. There was 4,300 sanctioned races in the US in 2014, which was the most ever, and now that's down to 3,100. It seems like that's because a lot of the big organizations are buying up races like Ironman, and a lot of people say that's such a bad thing, but this article discusses that it's a lot more nuanced and complicated than that, and there's a lot more that goes into it. And sometimes the buying up of these races can actually be a good thing. So it's really worth a read. They go into a lot of detail, but it brings me to my hot question number one, which is, what do you think about supporting local races versus just racing the big races? And where do you guys fall into with that? You guys race both? Me personally, I've talked with quite a few race directors on this, and they always want me to tell people to race local, and I love racing local myself, but I also want to race the big races. These race directors also tell me they have a huge concern about the future of the sport if these races all go away eventually. And yeah, how do you tell those that want to race an Ironman and become an Ironman that they need to race local triathlons as well? Triathlete shared someone's perspective in that article that they think Ironman should be promoting local races before they race their big races. I think we can all agree it's definitely important to support these local races. And then hot question number two, Super League Triathlon. Now that they just announced this, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about Super League in general? Are you watching Super League's races? Did you watch their series this year in the grand final in Neom? Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you think they need to do better? Are they gonna survive? Yeah, really curious on this. I've heard two sides of the story. And how do you think they'll do here in the US? Do you think the short course racing in Chicago and New York, if you live nearby, is something that you'll go do, or you'll go watch the pros there if they race there? Yeah, just really curious about Super League, guys. It seems like most people I'm around are watching PTO and Ironman, and yeah, just love to know if there's some huge Super League fans in the audience. So thanks guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I've got a video coming out this week. If you could do me a favor, it's the only one I'll really ever beg you to watch, and it's a documentary about a very special someone that I've been working hard on, and you will definitely take something away from it if you watch it. So please tune in for that one, and hope you have a great rest of your week. We will see you soon. Take care.